If there's one activity practiced the world over, a great example would be video games. According to Roedel and Terlutter in their article, The Same Video Game in 2D, 3D, or Virtual Reality, How Does Technology Impact Game Evaluation and Brand Placements? The usage of video games in households range the world over. You have 1 in 5 people in Southeast Asia to the US having at least one person who plays video games in 60% of households. And they say baseball's America's pastime. And yet, be it shooters like Call of Duty, stealth games like the Metal Gear Solid series, or classic RPGs like the Elder Scrolls franchise, there is one constant that applies to video games and technology as a whole. It's advancing and changing constantly, with improvements being a fact of life so that, as the saying goes, lazy people can find easier ways to do things, and one of these great developments applied to video games is a very technological development, virtual reality. For those wondering what I mean by virtual reality, imagine Tron and the Matrix, a set of films featuring a detailed digital landscape as far as the eye can see, with the full range of sensory experience available to all who enter it. Sadly, we do not have that technology because we do not live in science fiction. But we have the next best thing. Building off 3D images, we have virtual reality, or VR headsets. The scale for a video game's graphics goes something like a 2D game, like the first generation Pokemon games, right, that don't really have any physical depth to them, then a 3D game, which is clarified by Roedel and Terlutter as looking more realistic in an environment, due to the addition of the dimension of depth, which we experience all the time. Then we have VR games, which can be best described as using a VR headset to get the game itself and experiencing it through your own eyes. To summarize this difference, imagine playing a first-person game where you see through the eyes of your character. In a 3D game, you would see this through a screen of some kind, while with VR technology, it would essentially result in seeing it as if it was through your own eyes. This immersion is a point of reference for some of VR's uses beyond video games. This includes the possibility of manufacturing of goods. Imagine creating a new product. You have to work out the design, figure out the materials that go into it, the systems that have to be plugged into it to get it to work after you've tried 1,000 times, the production of it, and complaining with your coworkers because no, that piece there should be this color. Well, Joy Young and No's article on it can be seen as investigating the possibility of doing this through VR technology. Imagine the steps I just described there, the drafting of systems and physical design, the production, the hours and hours of drawing and plotting out designs. Now, imagine doing all this through a VR headset. Drawing out the designs and colors with your hands, making a list of materials needed, directing the production of the device on the shop floor through a VR interface. If you're imagining something straight out of science fiction, then rejoice, for potential developments in the field could result in factory floors looking like something between a Ford assembly line and Tron. In addition to gaming and manufacturing, development has also been looked into on the front of counseling. Garrett et al. Did a review of the concept. Studies have been done on treatments for conditions like acrophobia, the fear of heights, and PTSD. With the former, you can use VR to simulate a high-altitude environment in VR. Think of it like putting someone near a skyscraper or the Eiffel Tower. It allows them to develop tolerance for this over time and in a much safer environment. Sorry, my head was off in the clouds. As for PTSD, the VR technology could allow the simulation of the experience in a controlled environment, being tested on veterans with some very good success. But that doesn't mean VR has no share of flaws. Garrett et al. Study indicated that while they are promising results-wise, there are issues in testing and implementation of the technology, like the fact the application of it is new enough that standardization is difficult to pull off, as everyone has their own way of doing things, and long-lasting effects of extended VR use being somewhat difficult to establish. It's almost as if technologies that are newly designed can be difficult to understand the long-lasting implementations and effects they have that can bite us further down the line. Who would have thought? And aside from that, there's the concern from the video game angle in terms of addiction. PsychGuide says that video game addiction can be caused by both the natural design of how games always have that draw of just one more level, just one more level, just one more level, and also how they can provide a form of escapism from reality. Now, personally, I can't even begin to imagine what could be so absolutely dreadful about the world that we would want to escape it. Unless, of course, I'm watching the news for 10 minutes. But that does beg an interesting question. Roedel and Terlutter mentioned that VR technology can be extremely aversive due to its tendency to override the natural world, to the point said games can induce dizziness or motion sickness from the disorientation. And that begs a question of how it would interact with video game addiction if what's already an immersive experience gets to the point of overwhelming the senses. An avenue worthy of an investigation, for sure. At the end of the day, virtual reality is a technology that has fantastic applications, but its own share of potential dangers. But for those who are concerned, I direct us to Kranzberg's first law of technology. It isn't good, bad, or neutral. It simply is. While there are reasons to be worried about how a new technology may develop, or desire to dive into it because of it being a good thing and wanting more, the tech itself is the result of human innovation. It is up to us to decide how to use it, or even if we should. Thank you.